Thanks for joining us today at the Mining News Network podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are digging into Silverstorm Mining Ltd.
Sounds exciting.
It is. They actually just came out with a news release about their La Parrilla silver mine complex.
Oh, wow. The one down in Durango, Mexico.
That's the one, and we've got the news release right here.
Awesome.
It is jam-packed with all the technical details, but, you know, we're not just going to stay at the surface level, right?
Right.
We're going to go deeper.
We always do.
We're going to see what it all means for Silverstorm and what could it mean for you, if you're keeping an eye on precious metals or maybe you're thinking about, those mining stocks.
Definitely something to watch for sure. Silverstorm's been, well, they've been making some pretty big moves in the silver market lately.
Yeah.
This news release could be huge.
It could be. Okay, let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
So the big headline here is Silverstorm's reporting a massive, massive jump in their silver resources at La Parrilla.
Yeah, I saw that.
A 107% increase, a whopping 107% increase in the indicated category,
Wow.
and a 58% jump in the inferred resources.
That's a big increase.
It is a big increase. Now, I know we've got some savvy listeners out there.
For sure.
But just to quickly recap, indicated resources, those are based on a lot more detailed exploration than inferred resources.
Right.
So they give you a much higher level of confidence. Basically, it's like saying, hey, we're pretty darn sure there's a lot of silver down there.
Exactly. And for a mining company, boosting those indicated resources, that's like striking gold, or I guess striking silver in this case.
Right.
It really signals that the mine, could have a longer life
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and bigger profits and, ultimately a more valuable asset. And I mean, that jump from 5.2 million ounces of silver equivalent
Yeah.
in the indicated category up to 10.8 million ounces, that's not nothing.
It's not, no, we're talking millions of ounces of silver here.
Really?
But hold on, you just said silver equivalent.
Right.
Now, for those of us who don't speak mining jargon, what does that even mean?
Oh, yeah, good point. Silver equivalent. It basically means that they're taking the value of all the metals that are present, so not just silver, but gold, lead, and zinc.
Okay.
And they're just, they're combining it all into one number.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to, compare different deposits, get a sense of the potential value.
Got it. So it's like a one-stop shop for evaluating the mine's potential.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, something else that kind of jumped out at me here is that Silverstorm, they're reporting a really, really low exploration cost.
Oh, yeah.
Just 22 cents per ounce of silver equivalent discovered.
Wow.
That just seems incredibly efficient.
22 cents.
22 cents, yeah. Is that typical in the mining industry?
That's incredibly low.
Okay.
It really speaks to how focused their exploration strategy is. And really just the high quality of the La Parrilla asset. And remember, they acquired this mine. This wasn't like a greenfields project.
Oh, right, yeah.
They acquired this from First Majestic Silver, a company that's already, had a lot of experience at the site.
So they weren't just going in blind. They had some intel to work with.
Exactly. They were able to leverage that existing data and reinterpret it with fresh eyes and then really target their drilling very, very strategically.
Yeah.
And that's really what allowed them to unearth these 23 new mineralized structures.
Okay.
On top of the 22 they already knew about.
Wow. So they're basically finding new veins of silver within this existing mine.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it really emphasizes that efficient exploration, it's crucial in this industry.
Yeah.
A low exploration cost means that they can potentially, be profitable even if the grade of the ore isn't super high.
Right.
That's something investors watch really closely.
Yeah, so not only are they finding a lot of silver, they're doing it without breaking the bank.
Exactly.
That's got to be music to investors' ears.
For sure. Now, zooming out a bit, it's important to remember why silver is such a hot commodity.
Right. Yeah, it's not just pretty jewelry anymore.
Exactly. I mean, silver, it's essential for all sorts of technologies.
Oh, yeah.
Electronics, solar panels, medical devices, even water purification.
Wow.
And as the world relies more and more on these technologies, I mean, the demand for silver is only going to go up.
Right. So finding and developing these new silver mines like La Parrilla, it's it's not just about profit.
Yeah.
It's about feeding a global need at this point.
It really is, yeah.
Right.
Now let's get back into the the nitty-gritty of this resource update. One interesting thing is that La Parrilla, it has both oxide and sulfide mineralization.
Oh, okay.
About 90% of the indicated and 85% of the inferred resources, that's in the form of sulfide, while the rest is oxide.
Okay, now you're gonna have to break that down for me. What's the difference between those two ore types, and why does it even matter?
Right. So oxide ores, those are, typically closer to the surface,
Okay.
and they're pretty easy and cheap to process.
Okay.
Sulfide ores, those tend to have higher concentrations of silver,
Uh-huh.
but they need a bit more complex processing.
Okay, so that's more expensive.
It is, yeah. But the good news is, Silverstorm, they've got experience with both types
Oh, okay.
from, their work at La Parrilla.
So it's like they have a diverse toolkit for getting that silver out no matter what form it's in.
Exactly. Yeah, it gives them a lot of flexibility and opens up, options for how they process the ore.
Right, right. And speaking of efficiency,
Yeah.
this resource update, it really highlights their focus on data.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't just rely on, new drilling data.
They went back and reanalyzed all the existing information. We're talking 138 core boreholes totaling, over 18,600 meters.
Wow.
Even data from the previous operator.
So they're combining all this old data with the new data
Yeah.
to get a much more complete picture.
Exactly. Sometimes, a fresh perspective on old data can reveal some hidden value.
Right.
Plus, it just shows how committed they are to really getting the most out of La Parrilla, not cutting corners.
Yeah, that's a good sign. It's like they're doing their homework
Yeah.
before they, really start digging in.
Exactly.
Now, the news release also mentioned this sensitivity analysis,
Right.
something about cutoff grades for silver. What is that all about, and why should we care?
That's a great question. So cutoff grade, it's essentially a line in the sand
Okay.
that determines, which parts of a deposit are actually worth mining. So if the concentration of silver, if it's below the cutoff grade, it's just not economically feasible to extract it.
Right.
So what Silverstorm did, they tested, how their resource estimate holds up under different cutoff grade. It's kind of like simulating different economic conditions.
So it's like a stress test
Yeah.
for their profitability. They're seeing how this project would do if silver prices dropped or if costs went up.
Exactly. Yeah, and the results of that sensitivity analysis, they're pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
The resource of La Parrilla, it seems pretty robust across those different cutoff grades.
Oh, okay.
So even if the silver market has a bit of a dip,
Right.
they've got a good chance of staying profitable.
That's a good safety net to have.
Definitely.
But speaking of silver prices, that's kind of the big wild card, isn't it?
It is.
How do you see those prices trending in the coming years? And, how could that impact Silverstorm's plans at La Parrilla?
Well, silver, the demand is linked to a lot of different things. You've got the industrial applications, which are, constantly growing,
Yeah.
especially with, renewable energy and electric vehicles.
Oh, right.
And then you have the investment demand, which is, well, that could be a little bit more volatile
Okay.
and driven by things like inflation and just general economic uncertainty.
So it's a bit of a balancing act, between all these different forces.
Exactly. And predicting silver prices, that's always tricky.
Yeah.
But what we can say for sure is that Silverstorm is in a really good position to, to ride the wave,
Yeah.
however choppy it might get.
Okay.
Now, while we're, talking about specifics at the mine,
Yeah.
the news release mentioned something called a stope optimizer.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
I did.
To figure out, the best way to actually mine the deposit.
Right.
Do you what exactly is that and why is it so important?
Well, I saw that, and to be honest, I wasn't exactly sure what they were talking about.
Okay, so basically think of a stope optimizer as like a virtual mining operation.
Okay.
It's this really, really sophisticated software that helps engineers design, the most efficient and the most profitable way to get that ore out of the ground.
Okay.
And it takes into account, all sorts of things like the shape of the ore body, how strong the surrounding rock is, the grade of the ore, even the different mining methods that they could use.
So it's like a high-tech blueprint
Exactly.
for maximizing their efforts.
Right. So by using that stope optimizer, Silverstorm can be sure that they're targeting the most valuable parts of the deposit, they're minimizing waste, and ultimately, they're just boosting their profitability.
It sounds like they're they're really trying to be smart about how they approach this whole project.
Yeah.
But even with, with all this data, the technology, the experience, there are always risks, right, when it comes to the mining industry.
Absolutely. I mean, every mining project, it comes with, inherent uncertainties.
So what are some of the potential challenges that you think Silverstorm might face as they move forward with La Parrilla?
Well, there are definitely a few things to consider.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about the potential upside here, the huge resource increase, the low exploration costs,
Right.
that savvy use of data.
Right.
But what about the flip side? What could go wrong?
Yeah. Always good to look at both sides of the coin, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So as with any mining operation, there are, risks.
for sure. Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones, I think we touched on this a bit earlier, but the silver price.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
How volatile it could be. If prices were to really drop, I mean, it could have a big impact on how profitable La Parrilla is.
So even with that, robust resource, the efficient operations,
Yeah.
they're still at the mercy of the market.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
They can try to hedge against those price swings, but there's always going to be some level of, exposure.
Right. Right.
Another challenge that they might run into is, all the regulations in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Permitting environmental regulations. Those can get pretty complex.
Yeah.
And they can change, which can lead to delays, add costs that you weren't expecting.
That's a really good point. We've seen how, those bureaucratic hurdles, how they can just hold back mining projects, all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about finding the silver. It's
Yeah.
about getting permission to actually dig it up.
Exactly. And then even once you have those permits,
Yeah.
you need to make sure that you're operating sustainably,
Yeah.
addressing any concerns that the local communities might have.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, mining can have a big impact on the environment, so responsible environmental stewardship, that's absolutely crucial.
Right. It sounds like there's just a lot to juggle.
There is.
On the one hand, you have the pressure, to get that silver out of the ground,
Yeah.
make a profit, but then you also have to be really mindful of the environmental and the social impact as well.
It is. It's a delicate balance for sure. And then you've also got the challenge of finding and keeping skilled workers.
Oh, right.
I mean, mining's a very specialized industry,
It is, yeah.
and it can be really competitive to find, experienced people, especially in remote areas like Durango.
Right. So labor costs could be a factor as well.
Absolutely.
It's not just the price of silver they have to worry about. It's the cost of, just doing business.
Exactly. But, even though we're talking about the risks here,
Yeah.
it's really important to remember that Silverstorm, I mean, they're not new to this.
Right.
They've got a very experienced management team
Oh, yeah.
with a proven track record of, dealing with these kinds of challenges.
Yeah.
And plus, they're not starting from scratch at La Parrilla. They're taking over from a previous operator.
So they're inheriting some existing infrastructure.
Exactly. And knowledge.
Right. So they're not exactly walking into this blind.
Right.
That's got to count for something, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's clear that they've done their homework. I mean, they invested in all that data analysis.
Right.
They're using, sophisticated tools like that stope optimizer that we were talking about. They're not just, digging a bunch of holes and hoping for the best. They're being really strategic, really calculated in their approach.
It sounds like they're really trying to stack the deck in their favor.
Yeah.
As much as they can.
For sure.
But, at the end of the day, there's always going to be some risk, right?
That's true. That's true for any investment, especially in mining.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if investors carefully weigh the potential rewards against the risks,
Yeah.
they can make smart decisions.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive here into Silverstorm and their La Parrilla project,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about?
Well, I think the main takeaway here is that Silverstorm, it's a company to watch. They're making smart moves in a sector that's only going to grow.
Right.
They've got this significant silver resource they're exploring efficiently.
Yeah.
And they're really relying on data to guide their development.
Right.
But as with any mining project, there are risks that need to be, taken into account.
It's that classic risk-reward scenario.
Exactly.
But with Silverstone's experience, their approach,
Yeah.
and just the growing demand for silver, it's definitely a story worth following.
Absolutely. The future of silver is bright,
Mm-hmm.
and Silverstorm is in a great position to be a part of that.
And on that note, We'll leave it there for today. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of silver mining. As always, we encourage you to, do your own research, stay informed.
Yeah, knowledge is power, especially when you're investing.
Very true. Until next time, happy digging.
Thank you for listening to the Mining News Network. If you found this content helpful, please don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe. If there are topics or companies that you would be interested in or like us to cover next, please leave a comment down below.